picture of me talking on Facebook Live behind him. Now, that's sexy if you ask me. But give it a shot, try it out, and let me know what you think. Otherwise, if you got sunrise or sunset pictures of the dog, your Christmas tree, the car that you're really proud of, you can send those along as well. Now, we get into the last portion of the program. And I got it's training day here at the station, so I got to tell John Palau what's going on. This is what I refer to as the small talk portion of the show. Small talk portion of the show, where we can talk about issues that are on the table of contents, stuff that in the news and on the news, or there could be any variety of other things. It's the last hour of the program, and generally all of the really good stuff I've already wrung out. Mm-hmm. So we go into other topics that I think are interesting to me. The worst part of it for you, though, if you're going to be actively producing the show, is this is also the part where I'm the easiest distracted. Does that, are any of those words English that you're aware of? I am most easily distracted in this hour of the program. So I may dip my toes into a stream of consciousness and not have any idea where that stream is going to be going. But eventually we'll make it to 10 o'clock. That's the goal. That's the mission here. 9:11 in the morning, 888-8255-888-TALK. I give that number a lot because on the off chance that you might want to call every once in a while. I know though. I get that. People go, every once in a while you'll say something I think I should call in on, and then I just kind of, I just almost hypnotized by the sound of your voice, and I just listen and hear what you've got to say. All right, well, that's fine. That's fine. You can email me stuff if you like. I'll give you the email address as soon as I can log into it again. Does that ever happen to you? Is that not the scourge of living in 2020? Is the sheer volume of passwords that you have to have? Now, I've got 3 different email addresses attached to Google. One of them is Ray Gibson Radio. The other one is Ray Gibson Show. And then the third one is Breakfast Show K57. Because, frankly, I thought I was going to die at the old place, and I figured that was going to be that would be my identifier for the rest of my life. But for those of you that are curious, if you still have email contact with me through breakfastshowk57@gmail.com, that still works. I still get that. Yeah. So feel free to use it if that's all you've got in your contacts box. But anyway, so now the Ray Gibson Show email, I forgot the password. I didn't write it down. I thought it was going to be one of, 10 different passwords that I use on a regular basis. And as it turns out, it's not. And I have no idea how to get back into that email address.
I still remember mine.
Do you?
Yeah.
Your passwords? Do you want to get it on the radio? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so, and other email addresses, if I really had to work on it, I could probably tell you the email address. The first email that I ever had was not at Gmail or anything like that. First one that I had was on a thing called CompuServe. Are you old enough to remember CompuServe? Not at all. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, here comes the fun part. So, but in the very, very beginning, the early days of telecommunications and being able to do stuff, there were a few of these dial-up services. There was one place in Again, had a bank of modems, 477-2222 or something like that. And you dial that up, and you would connect up, if you were lucky, you would connect up with a 28.8 modem, but most of the time you'd connect up with the slower ones, the 14.4 modems. Okay. And even back in the olden days, we thought we were pretty quick when we were running on 9600 baud modems. Just no clue as to what I'm talking about, right? So you tell the computer, a little modem card that you had built in. You tell the computer what the phone number is, and then you dialed it. And you had to do this in a lot of cases. You had to do this a lot because there were a bunch of growing number of people that were using services like that. And so you would, if you got online, you sat on that line for as long as you could, take care of as much business as you could while you were working with it. And then you could log into 1 or 2 different places. Trying to think of, off the top of my head, there was definitely CompuServe. I want to say there was an Oracle one. Some of the old-timers will remember. Smugwimp is online. Remind me about some of the places that you used to go before the World Wide Web and before the Archies and the FTPs and all of that stuff, back when it was the dial-up days. So you could log in. You go to CompuServe, and they didn't give you a name. When you went to CompuServe, you got numbers. I was 76146, 3315. and
Yeah,
CompuServe,
okay.
right? So
Yeah.
that was how we did it back in the old days. And if I wanted to send you a message, I could send it. If I knew your number, I could send it to you through there. There was a messaging service that you
Yeah.
could send to other people. And for a lot of folks, that was one of the original ways you keep up with friends and family and business partners in the States by using things like CompuServe, and that was awesome. Yo,
I remember that because
Yoto
my mother
Hoochie,
used
I
to
think.
use that, and I sent out wrong messages. Just
Yeah, well,
doing
I've seen what you do on social media. there should be a line somewhere. There should be one of those things. You have to blow into something before it lets you onto the social media.
Yeah.
But that was back in the olden days. That was how we did it. I remember it was once upon a time we're playing around with the technology that would allow you to send. Emails. It was MCI Mail was the name of another company that you could go with, and the trick with MCI Mail was you. Instead of sending an electronic message to you, it would send out a message. I would type in, what the body of what it was that I wanted to talk to you about, and then I would press send. And then what it did was at the nearest MCI place close to you, it would print it out and stick it in the mail. Yeah, there were some efficiency issues back in those days, but wow, crazy fun. 9:16 in the morning, 888-8255. Yeah, Nate Horn there talking about it. CompuServe, there was Prodigy, and there was America Online. Lady D talking about manual dial-up. I remember how that worked. If you did not have a modem. Sandra DeLeon, oh my God, I had a dial-up in 2006 before I left Guam. Didn't it? It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, does it? When we were doing all of that stuff, I'm fond of telling a story of the guys over at Quintos, and Quintos was it's a building with modems inside of it. It's a gillion phone lines and things like that. Anyway, I remember the boys coming to the radio station, and I said, "What do we got here? What's going on?" And they said, "We've got two 28K modems, and we're going to shotgun them, and that should be able to give us 56K." And they brought it by the radio station because we were like the only place on where we had multiple lines where we could do something like that. And they brought it by the radio station, hooked up the both of them, ran some kind of software between the two of them, got them talking and syncing up so that we were actually getting 56K back and forth on this shotgun modem technology. You say 56K to somebody and they're like, what's that? What is it? 56K? What does that mean? It's from back in the golden days of telecommunications before we came up with DSLs and cable modems and things like that. Now I've got 50 gigs up and down in and out of my house or something stupid like that. Is it gigs or meg? I forget what it is that I'm paying for over at GTA, but it's really, really good. 9:18 in the morning, and through the magic, believe it or not, we're almost 100% digital here in this facility. Even the phone calls. If I'm talking to Jim Moylan and you're able to hear him on the radio, that's not copper pair. We have gotten away from copper pair at this radio station since day number one. We are using SIP lines. Don't ask me what the SIP stands for, but we use SIP lines to be able to as many businesses will these days, to be able to bring in and make phone calls. Hey, Jim Moylan, how you doing there, bud?
Terrific. Thank you, Ray. Good morning.
I got a new guy over there, and we're just going over and talking about the ancient days of telecommuting. You and I aren't that far off in age. Do you remember the top speed of the modem that you had in your first computer?
I can remember that sound. I wish I would have patented it because I heard it all the time.
Oh yeah, that noise. And do you remember appending the number with *70 comma before the phone number to make sure that if you had call waiting, it wouldn't disrupt your connection?
And that was first class then too. So that was impressive. If you had that was impressive.
Yeah. Well, the crazy old times, and now you think about the speed and where we are now, and when we get to 5G, where we're going to be in the future, and speed and in telecommunication, we'll be able to insult each other and in just the fastest times possible. 9:19. Senator Jim Moylan on the line, and normally I'd be trying to talk to Therese Terlai about it, but we have a hard time getting a hold of her. But I know it's something that you're vitally interested in as well, and that is the process of getting things straightened out over at Guam Memorial Hospital. Written into the budget, a little line of code in there that says if we've got any money left over, we need to give that $10 million to Guam Memorial Hospital.
That's correct. And we do have money left over. It's a matter of saying where it goes and who's in charge of saying that. So recently we did have a briefing at the Civil Defense for the coronavirus, and we were allowed to ask some questions. The senators and the mayors were there as well, and I brought up the hospital situation as it being a state of emergency. I brought up the fact that we also had a public hearing recently to increase the state of emergency amount of money that the executive office could use. Currently, it's at $250,000, which has been that way since the start. Back, it could have been way back in the late 70s or even further. But now with the cost of goods and the amount of things that need to be fixing as things get older and older, the proposal on the resolution was to make it a $500,000.
Okay.
So increase that on the bill, rather. So to increase that, and that reminded the governor that is there. We'd had a public hearing, feeling if you feel that's something you could really use for the hospital, especially. I encouraged her to bring it up for session, talk to her majority of senators there, and move that forward. And the other question brought up was with GMH's current situation, we did in our budget pass the $10 million for that to go to GMH, just the budget. We're already on the second quarter, and still nothing. Still, it leaks inside the hallways. You got towels on the floor. They're doing what they can, but it's like plugging up a leaky ship with rags, and elevators leaking, and the roof situation. This building is old. And
as buildings go, it's old. It's not as old as some of the buildings surrounding it. Jonestown is older than the old MCM hospital. We just haven't done a good job maintaining it. There are many old buildings. You go to Washington, D.C., how old is the house? How old is the White House? How old is, so you can, with proper maintenance and occasional maintenance, take care of things longer than the 40 years that building has been around. So I get that. But I just kind of bristle at the idea that it's like the old administration building. Remember when they tore that down? I thought that was completely unnecessary. And if they'd have done a better job maintaining it, and if they'd have found the money to be able to do the refurbishment that would have been required, that would have been a sweet thing to do because I like that building. But at any rate, so we got Guam Memorial Hospital, and we've got these items that we've identified as must-haves. New electronic health record system, fix the elevators, and have somebody go in there and do some work on the electrical panel. Because apparently that is a bigger deal, and whatever else is going to be coming out of the report from the Army Corps of Engineers. So we know about all of these things. We believe that the money is available, but it's I guess a question of convincing Auntie Lou and Lester Carlson that those dollars should be used for the Guam Memorial Hospital as opposed to paying down the deficit.
Correct, but the hospital is for the people, old and young, and if that coronavirus was here and we have more people already, we're at full capacity, basically, in the emergency rooms. And Dr. Ben Sakamoto always reminds us about that. So that $10 million should be used now, today. Even if we're going to discuss a future hospital, today we have to do something. And I'm really confused of why it's not being done at all. The legislature has done their part and has said the money is there. We believe the money is there. We don't need to wait for a May summertime audit. I'm sure the government is already spending that excess and trying to figure out how they're going to put it back into the bank before we recognize where it went.
I'm sorry. What's that? What did you just accuse the governor's fiscal team of doing?
If the money magically appeared, I'm sure it can magically disappear, and then they had to find ways to make sure it reappears again after their audit. But we already know where it's going. We already know the money is available. Even the first quarter of this year, we're 10 million over or 19 million over our projections that we decided, and we were over.
And that's just first quarter. It's $19 million first quarter, annualized that. I mean, there's a significant amount of money, and we went through this charade of convincing the people of Guam, or at least over at the legislature, them convincing themselves in the 34th, that we had to increase the business privilege tax to 5%. Okay, guys, it's done, and since it's done, and we're making all of this additional revenue, can we finally get some services out of the government of Guam? We get plenty of payroll, but not a whole lot by way of services. Go by the old Rainbow intersection, and it's got that kind of upper that ramp as you make your way through there. Nobody's cut the grass on that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. It looks like the government of Guam has given up, and I don't understand it. If there's $19 additional million sitting around, plus another $20 million that was unaccounted for in the 2019 budget.
Correct. It seems the more questions I ask or the more letters we write coming from our office, and I'm not alone. There's a lot of other unanswered questions by some other senators too. But we that's our duty. So as the senators, we need to continue to push, and we should be just as upset of the callers that you get calling in saying, "Where is this? Where is that?" And we should know. But the question I'm getting is, the money's not available. That's not a good answer. Show me how this should be working, and show me if you're going to be paying off the deficit, which was already, we have deficit money paying off the debt put away in the budget as well. Mm-hmm. You want to pay more? Tell me how you're going to do that. But those answers are not coming. In the meantime, we have a hospital that is in dire straits, right? They need something to be done today. And let's get it done. I have no other excuse or no other reason why it can't be done immediately. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm dying to see a plan, the same way they came out with a plan for the public safety. I'd like to see what their plan is for public health, ongoing public health issues. I try to stay out, emergent situations. I kind of stay out of the conversation because we've got this coronavirus, to see what they're trying to do and try to keep everybody as calm as possible as we, try to squash one rumor, another one pops up. Did you hear the one about the guy at the airport? Did you hear the one about the lady that walked out of her examination? Or whatever, all of these things, and pay attention and don't spread anything that did not come from an official source. My doctor friend is not an official source, so I wouldn't necessarily spread any of that stuff around either. Well, I'm interested, obviously, to see what's going to be happening with this. Now? There was a vote on the resolution, right? So, was that unanimous over at the legislature?
Reference to the money.
The $10 million for GMH.
Right. Oh, well, we just had our session, and that was Senator Therese Terlahi's bill as well, which just reinforced what the budget already basically had in it, too. Yeah. But, yes, it was unanimous. She had full support of the senators.
Okay. So there we go. There's obviously some kind of a mandate. Have you checked with the Attorney General on who's actually got? I should have asked him that question this morning. When it comes to the authority to spend unappropriated excess funds from the lapsed budget year, who gets to make that decision? I think that's the legislature's decision. I know you feel the same way. They don't over at the governor's office.
Right. Our duty in the Organic Act is to do the budget. That's it. One of them. And then, of course, confirmations and I just forgot. I'm sorry. I
think you're right. The marrying people and showing up at funerals is not one of the obligations of members of the 35th Guam legislature. It shouldn't be. 9:28 in the morning. One last question is a friend of mine came up to me last night and was concerned about, there's all these people saying, well, we shouldn't be sending people to FestPac and spending all this money. But are they now offering tax credits to some basketball organizations so that they can go off to participate in some basketball thing?
That bill passed as well, and that's correct. The group will be taking care of the University of Guam, refurbishing it, the courts especially, which has not been done since it was built, and also another could be up to 200. I'm not sure how the amendments went on that one, but there was travel also included for tax incentives too. That one passed. Just in this last session.
Right. Yeah, so I want to see what that looks like as passed as it makes its way to the governor's office, because you can't with one hand tell them that you're not allowed to go to FestPac, and on the other hand say, but here's some money for your basketball deal, just because it's the right people with the right names that are proposing these tax credits and these tax opportunities.
Right. We have some priorities that we really should be looking at. So I do understand the importance of the tournament going on and all the advertisement, it will be raining. But we do have priorities.
Well, I mean, if they're holding the tournament, if they're holding something specific here, and I believe that they are, then yeah, I can see where tax credits and we'll see if we can bring in some money to support this project that could be bringing many basketball teams and their fans to Guam. A, B, and if it does something for the University of Guam and the field house and our facilities for our kids, then yeah, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. But how much of those funds are going to be used to put people on airplanes and pay hotel accommodations and things like that? That's what I want to know about.
Same here.
Okay. Well, see what you can find out. Don't you owe me a beer?
I certainly do, sir. I'm more than happy to take care of that bet.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, beat me a little bit later on. I'll let you know where I'm going to be.
Very good.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Yep. That's Senator Jim Moylan on the point here, talking about some legislative stuffs and all of that. Did you want to ask me something, or did you want me to take a break? You just like okay. Hand signs. This is not loser. This means live stuff coming up. But in some places it is loser, and in other places it's also, if you're in the Philippines, it's Laban. Laban, you remember when they were running for president? Bottom of the hour. Okay, I'll take a quick break and we'll come back and settle up on some other stuff. 888-8255 is the telephone number. 888-8888 is the phone number for iConnect. Give them a ring, and I've already given you a list of stuff that you can go and check out over at the Micronesia Mall version of iConnect. I really urge you to go and see some of the things that they've got, some of the cool tools that they've got to make your internet lifestyle, whether it's dial-up or 4G, that much more enjoyable. It's 9:31. I'll be right back.
Passwords. They're the keys to our online identity, whether it's to your social media profiles, our streaming services, or our bank accounts. Here are some tips to keep your passwords strong and secure. Change your passwords often. Never use the same password across different websites. Craft your passwords from phrases that only you understand. Refrain from using characters or numbers that are right next to each other on the keyboard. These password protection tips are brought to you by Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
.31, and it must have been 19 forgotten. It's late 90s. Yeah. It'd be around the late 90s, 90. No, maybe it was early 90s, 91, 92. Trying to think. Nick Perlowski jarred a memory out of me, talking about a computer that he had bought there in the. Let me see if I can find his quote. There it is. Bought a Dell computer back in '97 with 32 gigs worth of RAM. Thought I was on top of the world. And I'm trying to remember exactly what year it was. I want to say it would have been 93, 94, something along those lines. And I remember I'd gotten a bonus from the company. We had a pretty good Christmas. And I'd gotten a bonus from the company. It was about, $1,000, $1,200 or something like that. A real sweet bonus. And I had been limping along on an old K-Pro computer or something stupid like that. And I thought, okay, maybe it's time I'm going to go upgrade. And there used to be a computer place right next to the old Guam Academy of Music and Arts. Next door to them, and that there was a building there, and there was a computer place in there, and you could go and you could. But I want to say they built it for you. It was one of those places where you didn't buy it out of a box. It wasn't an IBM. It wasn't a Dell. Didn't really have anybody's name on it. It was just some guy that you go in and you put your specs together, and he would build it for you. And so for about $1,200 back in those days, that got me a color monitor, which was major color monitor, dude. It also got me a Sound Blaster card.
I remember those.
You remember the Sound Blaster cards? Sound Blaster cards were absolutely awesome. I don't know what the analog is, what the new version of one of those kinds of cards are these days. But what as an example, I mean, it used to have the MIDI in, out, and through on those things, right?
Yeah.
So you could get a breakout cable and do and do MIDI on those things. I was experimenting with MIDI for a while till I realized that I wasn't a musician and it was going to suck for me. But just the idea that there were things that I could do. mapping keys and all of that. So it was a fun process for me, and I enjoyed it. But mostly, I just wanted it so that I could play sound out of my computer. And I was, not heavy into video games, but I like the idea of being able to play games with sound with my color monitor on that. And I remember thinking, dude, I'm on the top of the world. I'm the king of computing because I've got this massive computer that somebody built, and it must have had a 100-megabyte hard drive in it. It must have, and it was, what a terrific feel, 100-megabyte hard drive. How will I ever fill that up? How is it possible to, even if much downloaded in naked pictures, there's no way that I'm going to be able to fill up 100 megabytes worth of a hard drive.
Nowadays, it's like an MP3 could probably fill that up.
Yeah, terabytes now, as a matter of fact. 9:35 in the morning, 888-8255. I think I got the other governor, Leon Guerrero, on line one. In fact, I'm pretty sure I do. The other governor, Ken LG, are you there?
Yes, as long as we're going down memory lane on advances in technology.
Yeah, let's do it.
My first computer was 16K RAM with dual 5 1/4 floppy drives, and it ran on CPM computing language.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I taught myself CPM.
It came with a green monitor instead of an amber monitor, and I thought I was a cat's meow, especially because I had a 1800 baud modem that came with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing you invite people over to the house to see. Come here, look what I got. Look what I got, and then you jam up the
$1,000.
Yeah, you jam up the IOs and see, can I get a scanner on this? What kind of printer? And to this day, if you can get your hands on an Oki Data Microline 182, maybe the finest dot matrix, printer ever made.
Yep, I had one.
God, those were great.
Yeah, they lived forever. And I was...
Well, you run out of ink and you spray the thing with WD-40 and it would work again. What's that?
Yeah. I was the only one in the company that had a computer. I mean, we had computers. We had the second largest computing system on the state of Hawaii outside of Pearl Harbor. But that was, tape drives, 100-ton air conditioning unit, 2 feet cold floor. But I had this machine, this Televideo 950. Bought it myself, cost $3,000. To give you relativity, my brand new Fiat Spider convertible cost me $5,500.
Right.
But I saw the potential of this computer. And everybody else I knew, they had the 7-inch drives, and I had the 5 1/4 dual drive.
Oh, sure. And then when the 3-inch drives came out, I thought, my God, what a wonderful life to live when we can carry around 1.2 megabyte in our pocket, in our shirt pocket, Ken. What a time. Chris Biacchino, and God bless you for that one. Chris Biacchino has typed in the magical words here, Commodore 64, C64. And if you don't mind, let me just sit in this warm bath of nostalgia. My old man picked up a magazine, C64 magazine, and back in those days, you could type the code from the magazine into the computer and make yourself a program. You save it on the floppy drive, and so the C64 and Pop even built a stand for it, for the little computer and the old television that he used for a monitor. Because it put out a baseband signal, and so that was his first computer experience. And he put in a piece of software that would play Blackjack 21. And Mama Terry, when Pop was off the computer, that's what Mama Terry would do. She'd sit at the little stand and play Blackjack 21 on the C64 all night.
Yeah, my first computer, and it was my first business computer, was a Trash 80 with a tape drive.
Oh yeah. And
I was working here on Guam. And I wrote a program that created a mail label program, and it was a huge success. And that's what started me thinking about how I could use this technology, because everybody else and their uncle back in those days was using it for games. They were writing Pong games and versions of Pong on it. But I was looking at that, and the book that came with it had basic language in the back that how you could write programs to do different things. Now, that was a long time ago. We're talking 77, 78, but, we had a tape, a cassette recorder that plugged into the back, and then we plugged it into a TV. And so now I'm sitting here with a dual CPU Xeon with 8 terabytes of data, 124, 126 gigs of RAM. It's just like how far we've come in such a short period of time.
It feels like a short period of time, doesn't it? But it felt like every advance. It felt like every advance was another one of these almost cataclysmic changes, right? Here we are, and the old world as we knew it is gone because I've got 3.5-inch drives and a color monitor and the Sound Blaster with quad speakers that you could plug into the thing, or it's got we send a signal out on some kind of fiber optic. And now it's almost boring. You got what's going to happen in September of this year? They're going to come out with an Apple 12, and it's going to feel like the iPhone 11, which feels a lot like the iPhone 10. There are all of these changes that are coming up, but they don't feel as oh my god as some of the others. I mean, being able to get a Hewlett Packard scanner, laser printers. You remember how that changed our lives? Being able to go to laser printers.
Do you remember when push-button phones came out in the 70s? It took the telephone 70 years to go from dial to push-button, and look at where we've gone in 40 years from a cassette tape drive hooked to a television set to an iPhone that has more computing power than NASA had when they sent a man to the moon.
No, I've got a watch that's got more computing power than that. At 9:41 in the morning, just a crazy, crazy times. What will we come up with next? What's the next big change going to be for us? I'm having a good time with the conversation. I hope everybody else is, because it just seems to me that we all kind of come up together and all dealt with the same computer problems. And back in the old days, if you got a problem on a computer, I used to show off to some of the new guys at the radio stations, Windows 95 units and things like that. And we'd run into a problem, and I would jump to DOS, and they'd go, "What's that? What's DOS? Oh, my God, what kind of secret computer code language is that you're using?" And it's well, guys, it's just a way to navigate into the drives and see what some of the other resources are doing. But they look at you like you're some kind of a god because you understand DOS. Wow.
You want to hear something even scarier? Over half the people listening to the radio right now, that comment about a 900 baud modem just went right over their head.
Hello. Yep. Well, we used to, when we were at cable, we'd overnight the data, all of our transactions from Guam Cable TV. That got overnighted to a company called Cable Data in the States, and that was all done on a 9600 baud modem. And if you find Russell Hatfield out in the world somewhere, ask him about the drum drives that we used to have. We used to have these drives that I forget how small they were in comparison to today, but they were actual drums that looked like a coffee can, and you didn't erase them so much as you just took a flamethrower to them and melted them. That's how you got that. That's how you sanitized the drums so that nobody else could access the data. Anyway, 9:42 in the morning. Do you want to rant on anything in the government of Guam, or is this just a trip down memory lane for us?
No, this was just a trip down memory lane because, there's so much stuff going on in the government. I mean, I have been tied up on the phone dealing with some issues right now that I'm getting ready to write about. And, the big concern that I have right now, obviously, is Guam Memorial Hospital, because as I've been expecting, the governor has come out with her plan to build a new hospital rather than fix the old one, but she's not going to do anything about putting new management into the new hospital so that we don't take the old bad habits across. So then very soon the new hospital will be just as bad as the old hospital.
Systemic, guys, systemic. We need to, if we're going to do a hospital, we'll need to get somebody in here. When we're done building it, we need to find somebody to come in and run it. It cannot be a government of Guam hospital. Sorry, we've tried that over the last 50, 60 years, and it has not worked for us, and I don't think it's going to work for us. I think the thing that we've got to do is build from the specs that are provided by a major mainland health company, and then we hire them to run it. Think about that. Hey, listen, I got my other technical guru on line 2, so I'm going to go grab him.
Okay.
Talk to you pretty soon. 888-825-5888-TALK. Bob Kelly on the line. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. Yeah, I wasn't going to call in because
Hard to
I was
resist.
getting
We're
ready
talking
for a flight, but
technology.
you guys just suckered me in with this conversation.
But it's a fun conversation. What was the name of the original? Was some of my favorite handheld devices from back in the day. Who had a Palm? Raise your hand if you had a Palm Pilot.
Oh, I had 3 or 4 of them.
Exactly. And how much fun was it?
I even moved to one of the first smartphones, which was a Kyocera that had a Palm operating system.
Right. Palm Pilots were great. To this day, I can't write the letters of the alphabet the way they're supposed to be written because to this day, I still write for the modified cursive that was the Palm Pilot language.
Yep.
You remember it came with the little stylus, and this is how we do T's. This is how we do I's. This is how we do E's.
Yep. And so I had Palm Pilots. I had 3 or 4. I was just so happy. Palm Pilot had them when they were black and white. Then they came out with color Palm.
I remember the color one. I don't remember ever having the color one, but I do remember it was fun. With the Palm Pilot guys, you sit around, you come up with a meeting date or something like that, and you whip out your Palm Pilot and you hit the calendar app or something like that. It also had didn't it also have a DTMF dialer in it?
I'm not sure on that. I was going to share with you it was my first portable computer. But the reason I had all these Palm Pilots and collected and had a lot of fun with them is back in those days I was a geek.
Oh, yeah, and you're not now?
I guess I still am.
I guess you still are too.
My first portable computer was a TRS 100.
Tandy Radio Systems.
That's right. It had a display that was 40 characters wide and I think 16 lines. And a little LCD display on it.
I did. Our first one at the radio station at Hit Radio, whenever it had to be 1985, was a K Pro, and to refer to it as portable would be a terrible abuse of the word portable.
Yeah, those were the big ones. When I got my first Apple, it was an Apple II.
Yep.
Prior to the Apple II, I actually had an Atari. And before the Atari, I actually had something called an S100 bus computer. And that was getting very primitive. That was before CPM.
8-bit microprocessor?
Yes, it was. And now I got to.
If you think about it,
this was before the Z80. This was the 8080 chips that were being used back then.
Yeah, and prior to that, the 6502s. I remember working on a computer 6502 automation computer, and it didn't have much by way of memory. And if you wanted to plug in new programming or things like that, you had to do it with a teletype machine, and it had all of these little bundles of teletape that would announce a new program for the computer, so that you could do all of the stuff that you were doing. Back into the realm of handhelds, if you don't mind, what was the Casio? There was a Casio like a Palm Pilot, but it wasn't. There's a Mr. Know-It-All or something like that, and you could lap link it into a bigger computer if you had it.
I remember the Casios, but I didn't have one. I was very much into the Palm OS at that time. Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about the Casio was it was about the same size as an iPhone is now. It had a case that opened and closed, and a little tiny QWERTY keyboard on the inside so that you could tap information in there. And it came with there was a little RAM card that you could stick on the thing and load in additional programs. A very far-reaching device for its time.
And back in the 90s, I mean, if we're looking at handhelds and phones, the company that had over 60% of the phones, it was more dominant than what Apple or Samsung or the other ones are today, even the Android, was the Nokia. And Nokia had total dominance, but instead of going with Android, they decided to develop their own operating system that was separate. And this was in the early 2000s, and then they faded away because nobody liked their operating system, but they refused to go with the Android.
Yeah, and that's too bad because otherwise, that was the way people communicated and played their games back in the day was with that original handheld computer.
And Quintos, by the way, was the second dial-up set of modems. The first was PCI.
That's what I was trying to, which was right next to next to Guam Academy of Music and Arts.
Well, no. Well, I don't think so. No. We initially started in the Cliff Hotel with our first set of things. I happened to be part of that then and set it up. Was in the Cliff Hotel, and then we eventually moved down in with PDS. And that's why PDS is still in the phone business today.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm trying to remember because I remember it was a 477 or 472 number, but okay. Again, yeah, it sounds about right.
We set up TimeNet and we set up Telenet, which then allowed you to connect with Western Union, allowed you to connect with MCI, CompuServe, America Online, and which is how, you were saying earlier. And by the way, my first modem was my initial modem I had back on that first computer was 110 baud. But then by the time I got into the Apples and stuff, we had moved into 300, and very shortly with the 312 modem, the Bell 312 standard, it could do 300 and 1200, and then things just started zooming on up. Now, I was hearing people talk about 900. There was no 900 modem.
9600. Yeah.
9600. And there was no 1800. There was a 19.2. The next was a 37-something, and then 56. And 56 was one of the fastest dial-up modems back in those days you could get, and that was when things were really flying. And then if you wanted more than that, you had to go out and pay $150, $200 a month to get an ISDN line.
Yeah, which nobody uses ISDNs anymore. 10 away from the top of the hour. Always fun dipping our toes in memory lane, especially when we're starting to talk about technology. I cannot find the name of the Casio know-it-all that I had once upon a time. I had absolutely loved that computer, the handheld computer, and it did everything. It keep phone numbers on track. It's not like you needed it for emails because back in those days we didn't have emails, but it was a good little contact deal and ways that you could make notes to yourself and all of that stuff. 9:51, Bob, I'll talk to you soon.
Sure.
All right, buddy. And listening to the program definitely from a long, long ways away. Do I need to take a real quick break or not? All right, let me just finish up here with this word about the Billy Graham's folks coming to Guam, and then we'll wrap up the show with Jack.
Hafaday, Guam. We'd like to invite you to join us February 23 for the Guahan Festival of Hope with Franklin Graham at the Guam Football Association soccer field next to Dedido Sports Complex. Franklin Graham will be on Guam to share a life-changing message of God's love and hope for every one of us. This hope-filled event will also feature musical performances by Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter Michael W. Smith. Tommy Coombs Band, and Dennis Agianian. Don't miss this free once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Come join us for an afternoon of music and a life-changing message of God's love and hope on February 23 at the Guam Football Association soccer field, starting at 4:30 p.m. Gates open at 3:30 p.m. Admission is free. For additional information and updates, visit us and like our Facebook page at Guahan Festival of Hope. See you there. God bless you and God bless Guam.
Yeah, man. So just do a Google image search on Google for 80s tech and see some of the junk that is no doubt lying in the bottom of the ORDOT dump right now. Or there might be in a box or something at my house. I might still have some of this stuff. These old little handheld computer devices that didn't do much more than memorize what you put into them, and had little places where you could stick a card in and add additional programs. And that kind of thing. And it is possible that somewhere in the house might actually be a Palm Pilot. And if I had something to charge it with, I could probably... No, wait a second. Those things use AAA batteries, right? Anyway, play around with the thought. Somewhere in your house in a drawer is some old tech. Go look around for it and just see what kind of memories it can bring back. 9:53, and Jack's on the line. Hey, Jack, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Mr. Ray Gibson, how you doing today?
Not bad. Just it's fun every once in a while to do something like this and just talk about where we were when we thought that we were at the top of the computing and gizmo pile. You remember you go to TikTok just because it's 2 weeks before Christmas and you wanted to see what kind of magical toys they had to greet you at TikTok with?
You forgot we had a Radio Shack here.
We had a couple of Radio Shacks here, and Guam just can't keep them going.
I had a Commodore 64. I also had the old Atari game system and the one that you picked up at Tandy. And, of course, the dial. You remember you used to get those PC magazines or tech magazines, and they would have that CD-ROM in there. that allow you to call the toll-free dial-up places where you could hook up to the web and stuff like that from Guam.
Yep.
What they forgot to tell you is that they did charge us. So when I got my bill, it was from Talaza. Who did Talaza?
Talaza.
right?
It sounds like IT&E, yeah.
Yeah. I got my bill from it was like $700-something. I said, what?
Hello?
And what happened was my modem kept on disconnecting and reconnecting, and every time it disconnected and reconnected, they charged you for that.
Whoops.
It was ridiculous, man. So it was one. If you received those, or if you were tech savvy and stuff like that, you get those little disc inside the magazine that allows you to connect to various networks. If one's too busy or you couldn't, get a good connection or a good feed on it, it will connect you to another one automatically. But they always say it was free, but they never told you about the toll charges or the reconnection fee.
Never believe it. No such thing as a free lunch, and especially when we're telecommunicating. And if it came in on a phone line prior to us joining the American numbering system, I always looked the other way and always tried to find a local solution. Casio Boss B.O.S.S is what I was looking for. That's the gizmo that I had. I had the original version of it that I bought. I guarantee I bought with a check over at TikTok once upon a time, and loved it. And the cool thing was it had a little serial port on it that you could connect it via a program called LapLink at the time to whatever your computer was, so you could do data input with a real keyboard and then transfer the information over for the 20 people that you already memorized their phone numbers for. Anyway, not like today. I don't know any telephone numbers.
Here's some nostalgia that's still alive today. You can still dial 211 to get the weather. You could still dial 411 to get information. You still could dial 511 for the correct time. So
what?
Yeah, you can do all these things. They're still around. They're older than old. But
remember when you were a kid and you were bored, you'd call the time number just to hear what time it was and feel like you were a big person using a telephone. How much fun is that?
It still does the chime too. I'm not sure.
Could be. Well, I know that there's places on short wave where, thank God, you can still pull in WWV and get the correct time from those guys. Hey, what'd you think of the impeachment acquittal?
Well, merry acquittal to you too. But I heard Dr. Vince earlier, and I just want to issue a little bit of caveat here before we. You got to remember that China is a different beast here. They have a thing called now what is called social credit. So you say anything bad about the government, you do anything wrong, they have a system there now that's in place called social credit, and they even it's a different kind of beast over there. It's a different kind of place. And so maybe if you really think about it, maybe because of all the confusion about the coronavirus, or maybe it's because, the numbers don't add up that are coming out of China. Maybe. I don't know. If you look how many people died of the regular flu, influenza, last year, the year before in the U.S., right?
Yes, we've seen those numbers, yeah.
Guess how many died in China?
I don't know.
97.
Do you think they're fudging the numbers?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. So the only thing that I'd take a look at, and I don't want to say that they're backwards third world country, but it was inside our lifetimes where the majority of people that we're talking about weren't necessarily city people. They were farmers and they were living under a communist yoke within our lifetime. So living in this new century for some of them is something that only the last couple of generations have enjoyed. There's still a lot of people who are thinking 50s and 60s.
I don't think it's again, it's a different beast, but I really think probably it's the way they count also, because here I think in most jurisdictions in the U.S., influenza could be the cause, someone dying, the main cause. But I think over there, like if they have heart conditions or something, and influenza came in, and even though they died of influenza, they don't really put influenza as a cause of death. Yeah,
well, there could be that counting.
It's a lot of things that are going on, and you got to remember, we just urge cautiousness, right? And invest in Gilead.
Well, did you? I don't.
Pharmaceutical.
Yeah, I was going to say, any
I'm just
pharmaceutical
giving you a heads
mask
up here.
company, because people are buying those things like they were going through mosquito coil in the CNMI.
No, I said invest in Gilead, the pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. 9:59. Hey, John, I got to go because the music's playing
Okay.
already. You have a fantastic rest of the day. We'll yak again tomorrow because we like yakking with each other, don't we? The radio station, KUSG, got ya. So are Johnny in studio and Real Joe in the studio and Montesilva Tyron and Jerry Roberts. This is Ray Gibson saying thanks so much for listening to the program. Hope you enjoyed it. You know, we do this every day here at this radio station. What station is it? Well, this is The Point.
This is a Fox News alert. It's a political loser for Democrats. I'm Lisa Lacera. That's what Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell is calling the